Big game in Happy Valley. Buckeyes get it done 20-13 over Penn State. We know it's a huge game in the standings. What does it mean for Ohio State morale, confidence boost, and what did the Buckeyes show us today as they marched down the Big Ten stretch? And also, of course, Penn State, as they're still in play with only one loss. Comments and questions welcome down below right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. Please like the video and subscribe. Right out of the gate, we note the addition of Lathan Ransom, one of the best safeties in the country, back in the lineup for Ohio State. He was key in a number of situations in this game. Tyler Warren, taken out of the passing game by Ohio State to a certain extent, also taken out of the passing game, unfortunately, by the Penn State offense. 4 catches, 47 yards for one of the best weapons in college football. They tried to work him into the offense a number of times as a direct player, meaning direct snaps, also pitches, had a direct snap on the first drive of the game. Penn State barely gets a first down on what was a very questionable stop and a blown-up play by Davison Igbinosun on the first drive. Drew Aller's legs, despite the injury which forced him out at halftime against Wisconsin last weekend on the road. The knee looked fine. He used his legs starting with the first drive of the game, and that was key to Penn State generating any kind of offense in this game, as once again they struggled to gain yardage against the Buckeyes. Jack Sawyer in particular, but a number of Buckeyes let Aller slip away in what could have been sacks or lower yardage plays in which Aller picked up positive yardage. Ohio State stiffened in the red zone, and Penn State led it 3-0 on a field goal. Carson Hinsman moved to left guard. Donovan Jackson moved to left tackle, of course, because of poor play, but also Zen Mahalski unavailable this week. This is the first time, even though we've got 2 experienced players along the offensive line in Hinsman and Jackson for the Buckeyes, playing in those positions for the first time ever. How would the offensive line respond after that horrible performance against Nebraska last week? Well, rather well. But right out of the gate, Zion Tracy, phenomenal play, sitting down, staying where he was in the formation, watching the Ohio State quarterback Will Howard, and watching the route. That was a beautifully designed route, but Tracy read it all the way, stayed put, and read the inside play. Pick 6 as he takes it to the house. Will Howard had a shaky start, not just on the pick 6, but did not get off to a good start in this game. Eventually 16 of 24 for a $182 as Ohio State trailed 10-0. Penn State off to a great start at 10-0. Keep in mind, of course, the narrative going into this game, that Ohio State beats good teams, but they don't beat elite teams. 2-7 for Ryan Day against top 5 teams, 8-8 against top 10 teams, so what would that be, 6-1 against teams ranked 5 to 10. That's mostly Michigan and Penn State, of course, but 2-7 against top 5 teams. James Franklin, a decent 4-5 in bowl games, a couple Rose Bowl wins. However, 1-13 coming in against top 5 teams, and most of that against Ohio State. The Ohio State run game, this was a huge challenge. I thought that the biggest advantage on the Penn State side was an obvious call here. The Penn State defensive front against those Ohio State's wobbly offensive line. But man, the Buckeyes won it first and foremost, yes, with defense, but number one key to this game, the offensive line. Getting a push consistently in the run game, that was impressive. Ohio State's run game, Quinshon Judkins in particular, man, he runs hard, he's explosive, he is a complete back. Emeka Egbuka gets lost on a play in which they kind of hit him deep into the formation on the left side. Real tight to the offensive left tackle. Sprinted toward the pylon to the other side of the field. Caught the 31-yard touchdown. Buckeyes led it 10-7. No, Penn State still led 10-7 as that was Ohio State's first score of the game. Joel Klatt had mentioned during the broadcast that the officials said that they would let these teams play. I don't know that the officials should be making any kind of comments on how they're going to officiate before a football game. If that, in fact, was the communication exchange, officials should not be commenting on how they're going to officiate a game before the game. I think they should just call the game according to the rule book and according to common sense. Davison Igbinosun, of course, handsy, physical. He walks the tightrope all the time, and this benefited Ohio State in particular on this day because the officials did let these guys go at it. Elliott Washington, Penn State defensive back, after getting a key stop on a third down, tackling Carnell Tate in space, gets called for a taunting penalty. And I guess specifically according to the rule book, it is technically taunting when you step over a player after you just tackled them and you step over and hang over them. And I understand that may not be the best sportsmanship, but I thought it was a ticky-tack penalty. I personally don't like to see penalties called that affect the game, of course, that are not playing penalties. They are not between the whistle penalties, but there you go. That's what it is. It was called. Will Howard, right after that, missed Carnell Tate on a play that should have been a touchdown down the right sideline, and he threw it way out of bounds, and Tate just made a remarkable play just to catch the football out of bounds. So they had a probable touchdown there, but the drive continued, and then they had the fake pitch play to Travion Henderson. Brandon Inniss, crossing route, touchdown, 14-10. Brandon Inniss gets into the mix in the offense this week. 2 catches, 33 yards. Both catches were huge in this game as the Buckeyes then led 14-10 after the horrendous start. Ohio State gains the lead. Will Howard on another drive missed Quinshon Judkins. That would have been a huge play. It was a difficult pass to a certain extent as he tried to feather it over the linebacker, but Judkins was in the clear and would have ran forever. Near the end of the first half, Ohio State had a 4th and 1. They were going for the push. It was pretty obvious by the formation, obviously, and the splits by the offensive linemen. All right, then Penn State called a timeout. Ohio State came out at the timeout, and obviously they figured, okay, they're awaiting the push play. We can't do that. We're going to change our look. And they ran a different formation, and they ran Howard to the left on a bootleg. Penn State blew it up. Howard slipped the sack, though, and found Jelani Thurman, who juggled, finally caught it for a big conversion, or so we thought, when Will Howard seemingly scored a touchdown a couple plays later. But Howard was stripped of the football as he was reaching for the pylon by Zakee Wheatley, who made a remarkable play because Howard was down the sideline and at worst was going to be running out of bounds at like the 2-yard line with Ohio State in prime position at 1st and goal. But Zakee Wheatley, remarkable play, correct call by the official that originally called a touchdown, but it was clearly a fumble over the pylon and a touchback, Penn State football. So the Buckeyes miss a scoring opportunity, and it's blown right there. Should have been up 21-10, and Ohio State led in total yardage at this point, 185-66. Pick 6 by Penn State. Buckeyes fumble at the goal line. You've got a 14-10 game that should have been 21-3. Buckeyes rolling, but making key mistakes at this point. 2-minute mark, Abdul Carter forced a punt on a sack as he really whipped Donovan Jackson on that play. All right, let's get to the end of the first half here. And this is typical James Franklin, unfortunately. I think he's an excellent coach. He builds a nice program, and Penn State's a really good program, strong team, and all those good things. However, we're talking about winning at the elite level that James Franklin called out, 8 years ago to say, we're great, which I don't agree with, but he was distinguishing great and elite. They're elite. Ohio State, we want to get to that level. That was 8 years ago. And this is one of the reasons why James Franklin is not elite. He's got 3 timeouts at the end of the first half. He could have called a timeout after a play at 1:06. Call a timeout. You still have 2 left. Do you know when Penn State ran its next play? At the 31-second mark, when Ohio State called a timeout because they didn't like a certain look. They wasted 27 seconds. It almost didn't matter because Drew Aller made a remarkable throw with a hand in his face, more than a hand, a body, a blitz in his face, to Trey Wallace, who made a remarkable one-handed catch inside the 5-yard line. But then Davison Igbinosun, we've called his name already a ton in the first half, made an incredible interception on a play that Wallace looked like he made a great play in tight coverage in the corner of the end zone for the touchdown. But Igbinosun took it away in the midst of the players fighting for the football, clearly took it away, controlled the football, got the football and the foot down. Buckeyes protected the 14-10 lead at halftime. All right, we get to the second half. Quinshon Judkins was the main guy in the first half. Travion Henderson, first drive of the third quarter for the Buckeyes. This was the Travion Henderson drive, and it was more so the offensive line drive and second half. There was a mix-up on a third down play. Well, Will Howard could have gotten a block from Henderson, who was into block. And if he would have just thrown the block, Howard would have gotten a first down, and possibly the Buckeyes scored the touchdown. However, he didn't. He slipped out for the reception. Howard threw the ball, flipped it out to him for a first down, but his knee was down. Buckeyes settled for the field goal. 17-10 lead. Travion Henderson, 10 carries, 54 yards. He looked strong. Abdul Carter with another sack. So Donovan Jackson played well. However, Abdul Carter is a top 10 pick in the NFL draft forthcoming. So we whipped him again. 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Stopped another drive on a Carter sack. Cody Simon, JTT, had back-to-back sacks on a drive in which Penn State moved inside the 50-yard line and had their opportunity. And if you really look at it, over these two games, going 2023 in Columbus and this game this afternoon, Penn State scored a garbage touchdown, down 20-6, scored a touchdown to make it a 20-12 loss with about 40 seconds left last season. Same thing today. No offensive touchdowns for Penn State. So virtually no offensive touchdowns in two games. Okay, Buckeyes get the ball back. Again, it's 17-10. Jeremiah Smith, for all his greatness, all his potential, and most of that potential has already been realized, and if it's not, then he will be the greatest receiver of all time, dropped what should have been a touchdown bomb over the top. Will Howard laced it in there. It was beautiful. Smith got a little lackadaisical. Maybe he plays the one-handed game a little bit too much. Needed to get two hands out there. There wasn't a guy pinning his hand. He had beaten the defender, so it wasn't that type of situation. So Jeremiah Smith, maybe a little bit maturing in his game, even though he has certainly excelled. So they miss on that one. And then they got the play that was controversial, but I believe it was the correct decision by the officials. It was close, though. Ball in the flat to Quinshon Judkins on a third down. He fumbles, or so it was called on the field. But I thought the first 5 times I saw the replay that he did fumble, even though it was awfully close, and it was bang, bang on the catch, then fumble. But he never had complete control of the football. It was still kind of bobbling, and he had just received it, and he still didn't have it, got knocked loose. Penn State would have had the ball at midfield. Instead, Ohio State keeps the football, and they convert the field goal as they got a big out route on the 3rd and 9 to Jeremiah Smith, who ran a remarkable route. Boom. Just pushed off to a certain extent, got the separation, and then caught it for the first down conversion. Buckeyes, again, get the field goal to make it 20-13 at that point. And then we take you down the stretch here. And with 7.5 minutes left, Tyler Warren showed his worth once again. Even though they didn't get him too involved in the passing game, unfortunately for him, 4 catches, 47 yards. On a 3rd and 6, they lined him up right next to Aller, and they pitched him the football like a traditional tailback, like a sweep, and he took it all the way down to the 3-yard line. It should have never gotten to that point, but he showed better than you would think by looking at the guy, the speed to beat the Ohio State defense to the corner, go all the way down the field, just throw guys off of him, and the Penn State team was set up here. Tyleik Williams, let's note, was taken out of the game at right about this time when Penn State was setting up 1st and goal, and Edric Houston had to come in, and he apparently did his job because the Buckeyes did their jobs. They held, plays up the middle, just reminiscent of last Saturday in Columbus against Nebraska, where the Huskers could have taken the lead, but the Buckeyes stood up on 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and goal. They did the same thing against Penn State today, although the Nittany Lions tried the pass on the play action on 4th and goal from the 1. Lathan Ransom did a remarkable job in reading the situation. He got out to the outside to take out Warren, take him away from Aller. That's where Aller's eyes were. He went back to the middle of the field. There was too much traffic. Had to find a receiver, could not, and Ohio State held. Okay, that's where the game was won, and this is where the game was sealed. There's 5 minutes left to play. The Buckeyes lead 20-13. They've got the ball at their own 1-yard line. They get a push on the first play. Howard straight ahead on the keeper. They get 5 yards. And then Quinshon Judkins up the middle. Penn State knows they're going to run the football. And Ohio State smartly did not try to trick them, did not try to get fancy, stayed with the running game and the offensive line. So impressive that Ohio State's offensive line fired out on this drive to drive it all the way from their own 1 out past midfield. First down after first down after first down. Never gave up the football. Quinshon Judkins, 14 carries for 95 yards. Ohio State, 121st in the nation in third down. Short yardage conversions, 4 for 4 on this day. The final one was a Will Howard keeper behind a tight end that was kept in to block on the left side who was playing a yard back. And they got the short corner, and Howard picked up the first down to close it out. Quinshon Judkins, 6.8 yards per carry. Travion Henderson, 5.4. So that's about 6 yards per carry out of those two. 2.7 against Nebraska last week. The Ohio State offensive line came through in this one. Buckeyes win 20-13. They're 7-1. The one loss in the Big Ten, of course, at Oregon. Purdue and Northwestern the next 2 weeks before they face Indiana in Columbus. For Penn State at 7-1, their next date against Washington in Happy Valley. Leave those comments and questions down below. What do you think of Penn State? What do you think of Ohio State? What did this game tell us? James Franklin now 1-14 against top 5 teams. Ryan Day up to 3-7, 9-8 against the top 10. Your thoughts down below. Comments and questions, of course, right here at the Voice of College Football.